Hello and welcome to Inside Politics. I'm Anastasiya Lavrina, and today we begin with an important diplomatic signal from Baku. The visit of the President of Latvia to Azerbaijan at a time when Europe is reassessing its security, energy priorities and partnerships across the wider neighborhood. This visit comes aimed growing European interest in the South Caucasus, renewed momentum in the Azerbaijan-Armenia peace track, and rising instability from the Middle East to the Black Sea region. Azerbaijan is increasingly viewed not only as an energy supplier, but also as a strategic transit and balancing actor between Europe and Asia. To discuss the significance of this moment, I'm joined now by Artis Pabriks, who is a former Deputy Prime Minister and former Minister of Defense of Latvia. Dr. Pabriks, welcome to Inside Politics.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. The Latvian president's visit to Baku comes at a strategically sensitive moment, with Europe reassessing its security architecture, supply chains under pressure, and the South Caucasus gaining renewed geopolitical relevance. How do you interpret the timing and broader significance of this trip, and what message does it send from Riga to Brussels and the wider region?
Well, this visit, of course, overlaps with very important geopolitical events around us, because there is going on war in Ukraine, there is going war in Persian Gulf. But I would say that this visit of President of Latvia to Baku and Azerbaijan was planned already some time before, and this was not planned just because the wars were around. This visit was as a top explaining of our good relationship between Latvia and Azerbaijan, and I think that the current circumstances could simply add already to the importance of this visit. So I'm very happy that both our presidents meet, because Azerbaijan for Latvia is a strategic partner in the Caucasian region.
Well, that's indeed very interesting. Absolutely. Political dialogue between Latvia and Azerbaijan has remained steady, but there now appears to be room for more substantive cooperation as Europe seeks reliable partners and new economic corridors. What practical areas could define the next phase of Latvia-Azerbaijan relations? Probably it's a trade expansion, transport links, digital innovation, security dialogue, energy resilience, or even the stronger political coordination within the wider European structures?
Well, currently we do experience that the global relationships between countries are fragmentating. That means that we all have to seek more friends and closer relationships to counter this fragmentation. So it's, of course, politically highly important that a relationship between Baltic states, between Latvia and between Azerbaijan is strengthened. That's number one. Number two, we see that economic relationships, energy sector, where Azerbaijan is playing more and more important role, is very, very important also for Latvia and, of course, for other European countries. And the third thing is, of course, security and defense, because I also know that there is a delegation of Latvian industrialists, drone producers, going together with the Latvian President Rinkevich to Baku. And we know that Azerbaijan have already developed a very good relationship with a number of regional countries as far as security and military industry. But I would say that there is a very big hope also on the Riga side, on Latvian industry side, also to find a good and long-lasting partnerships in Azerbaijan. So I would say it's politics, it's economy and energy, and it's, of course, drone industry and new technologies and robotics, where Latvia is among the leading countries in our region.
Absolutely, Dr. Pabriks, I totally agree with what you have just said. But apart from this, Latvia also offers strategic access to the Baltic Sea and Northern Europe, while Azerbaijan connects Europe with the Caspian region, Central Asia and the Middle Corridor. At a time when alternative routes are becoming increasingly valuable, could countries like Latvia and Azerbaijan cooperate more actively through the Baltic-Caspian connectivity and logistics networks, creating a new northeast trade access across Eurasia?
Definitely, because I think that Latvia and the Baltic states would have to readjust in the nearest future the major trade routes, because historically they were direction either west-east or east-west, but currently because of challenges in Russia and other places, I would say that the north-south will become more important eventually, because Arctic is melting, and also routes which go from Caspian Sea to Black Sea to Turkey and later on to Europe, they can be very well reconnected and connected with this north-south route, which is becoming more and more active in the Baltic region. So that would be the way how we could be united with each other, connected with each other closer. And of course, always air routes, and despite of current higher prices for jet fuel, I still believe that also airports can be of very great use in Baku and in Riga.
Dr. Pabriks, negotiations continue on a new comprehensive agreement between Azerbaijan and the European Union now, as energy security, strategic autonomy and geopolitical resilience have become far more urgent priorities in recent years. How has Europe's perception of Azerbaijan changed from a regional partner to a more strategically important state in the EU's wider neighborhood?
European Union is consisting of various countries, and different countries have different experience with region and also with Azerbaijan. But I definitely can stress also from my previous experience in politics and from my previous understanding of Caucasian region and Azerbaijan that Latvia was and always will be a good partner for Azerbaijan, and we are very much interested to promote not only bilateral relations, but also a better understanding of Azerbaijan in Brussels, in European Union, and also in NATO. So from that perspective, I think we simply should continue that work what we have been doing before in our bilateral relationship. Sorry to say, if I also remember my own times when I was still a foreign minister and defense minister, Azerbaijan is a country which deserves our respect and deserves better positions also in relationship to European Union.
Situation indeed changed much since 2020's war between Azerbaijan and Armenia, when, in result of which Azerbaijan restored its territorial integrity. And today, Latvia and also European officials increasingly argue that real progress between Azerbaijan and Armenia could reshape the wider region. It can unlock the transport links, reduce long-standing security risks, and create new economic corridors between Europe and Asia. So, do you agree that this has now become a genuine geopolitical opportunity?
Definitely. And I should simply quote former Prime Minister of United Kingdom, Churchill, never miss a good crisis. It is, of course, ironic, but there are crises one after another around. And I think that if we use our imagination, then Azerbaijan and also our partnership can create a lot of interesting opportunities for both sides, and particularly for Azerbaijan here.
Well, just recently, the Council also agreed to establish a civilian European Union partnership mission in Armenia under the Common Security and Defense Policy, at a time when Armenia is also hosting its first ever major European summit in May, and regional diplomacy itself remains highly active. Could this deeper EU institutional presence create new momentum for reform and peace, or might it also sharpen geopolitical competition and raise new questions for the long-term normalization process with Azerbaijan?
I hope that it will assist to normalize relationship between Azerbaijan and Armenia, because let's be honest, Armenia was very much dependent from influence of Russia for a very long time. And I don't think that this helped Armenian side very much. So I think that, in my view, Armenian leadership, politicians, elite, business circles should reconsider this approach and look for other opportunities. Just like European Union countries should also see that previous ways of dealing with Caucasian region was not always the most successful.
Dr. Pabriks, but many experts now are expecting some changes in the Armenian political system in case of the results, the elections, upcoming elections, which will take place in June in Armenia. And we cannot ignore the fact that in some Western European countries there is a still strong Armenian diaspora which is trying to somehow influence the election process, and they're not willing to see the peaceful coexistence between Armenia and Azerbaijan in the region of the South Caucasus. So what is your expectations from here, and how exactly European Union itself may help two countries to proceed further with a peaceful agenda?
Well, of course, the situation is not easy, and the history of the region has been very complicated. But then again, which region has an easy history? We all have our own demons, our own problems. And I would just retaliate what I have been telling before. I think that this is just rational, that both neighboring countries are finding a way how to collaborate with each other. And this should be based on mutual respect, on respect of territorial integrity. And I think that could be beneficial for both sides. And also European countries which have been maybe taking different positions previously, I hope that they can change their attitude and support such type of rapprochement between Azerbaijan and Armenia.
Very interesting. Dr. Pabriks, I may use the opportunity of our today's conversation also to ask a couple of questions about the situation in the Middle East. President Donald Trump has announced an extension of the ceasefire with Iran, while uncertainty over maritime security and future negotiations still remains. How is the European Union viewing these latest developments, with cautious optimism that diplomacy may still prevail, or growing concern that the ceasefire could prove temporary and another escalation may quickly follow with direct consequences for energy markets, shipping routes, and wider regional stability?
Well, I cannot answer for all European experts and analysts and politicians, but I would say that, of course, in general, in Europe, there is no sympathy for political leadership of Iran, knowing how Iran was treating their citizens and what was their attitude also to their neighbors. But equally, most of European countries are also not extremely happy about this war against Iran, where no European countries were consulted, and which simply exaggerated and complicated even more the situation in Persian Gulf and in Hormuz. And from that perspective, Europe is actually a region, a continent which is suffering also from increased prices of fuel, of blockade of transportation. And in order to solve this question, I think it should be used all the diplomatic means, because by simply naked force, this situation is not solvable. But again, I would say that this is not even about Hormuz. This is not even about oil. It's not even about the nuclear possible capabilities of Iran. It is rather a long-term question about the relationship between Tehran on the one side and Washington and Israel on the other side. So they should simply tackle these questions and this relationship, which should be solved beneficially for both sides. Because if this relationship will not be solved, then these conflicts will prevail. We can get a ceasefire for a year or two, but the situation will return again to the back wrong normal. And this is a problem for the whole region. And I think it is, of course, also not a positive sign for Azerbaijan, which is very close to Iran.
Absolutely. We share the border, and any kind of situation escalation in the region may have its own consequences for the region and for Azerbaijan itself. But Dr. Pabriks, remember around a month ago during our previous interview, you said that many in Europe didn't fully understand the ultimate objective of this war, whether it was regime change, promotion of democracy, or preventing Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. You noted that because of the strategic ambiguity, the United States didn't receive broad, unified support at the outset of the conflict. But what about now, with the Strait of Hormuz effectively under pressure from both sides, Iran and the United States, and maritime disruption already affecting global energy markets, particularly in Europe? Has this changed the political mood in European capitals, and what should we now expect from Brussels? And are key NATO countries more likely to align openly with Washington if the crisis deepens?
Well, we still do not know the projection and the necessity of this war because, as I mentioned, the European countries were not consulted. It's never happened like this before, because if there were crises with Afghanistan or Iraq, then coalition of willing were formed, diplomatic work was done months before such type of political or military events. It didn't happen this time, so Europe is basically an observer here, which is also suffering the consequences of this. So I wouldn't say that the mood is very positive in Europe about this. And the one outcome, of course, is that Europeans even more are trying to rely and find the ways how to rely more on themselves as a continent.
But at the same time, European Union already has extensive sanctions in place against Iran, and it has now reached a political agreement to widen that framework by targeting those responsible for violations of freedom of navigation. So could these stout measures complicate future negotiations between the West and Iran, European Union itself and Iran, or instead strengthen leverage ahead of any talks?
I would say that it's too early to judge the influence what Europe could extend on Tehran or Iran currently, because again, we do not know the goals of this. But there is one more player which currently is silent, and we don't know what kind of influence that will extend on the closure of Hormuz and on Iran. And this is China. And in general, countries of Far East, which are suffering because of this war, even more than Europeans.
Yeah, that's a key question, how China will respond to the consequences of this Strait of Hormuz blockade and the future implications. And one more question, Dr. Pabriks, if I may. Pakistan, where the first round of talks reportedly took place, appears to be playing not only the role of mediator, but also one of real influence. That became even clearer after a statement by President Donald Trump, who said that Washington agreed to delay further attacks on Iran following requests from Field Marshal Asim Munir and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. How significant is Pakistan's emerging role in this crisis, and are we now seeing Islamabad become a credible diplomatic channel between Washington and Tehran, with growing leverage that extends beyond mediation into shaping outcomes?
It's too early to judge how Pakistan's role will be shaped during and after such type of negotiations, if they will happen again. But clearly, I think it is a good sign, and it is good that Pakistan took this role, because somebody has to do it. And Pakistan used this chance, and of course it will be, at least to some extent, beneficial also to this country, because it's very important that when cannons are working, that somebody is still keeping sanity and trying to talk, because at the end, we have to end this kind of war by diplomatic arrangement.
Well, Dr. Pabriks, thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and thank you for joining our program today.
Thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank you. Well, Azerbaijan's growing relevance in Europe's strategic thinking, the future of regional connectivity, and the prospects for lasting peace in the South Caucasus will remain key issues to watch in the months ahead. As global uncertainty rises, partnerships built on pragmatism, stability and mutual interests are becoming more important than ever. My sincere thanks to Artis Pabriks, who is a former Deputy Prime Minister and former Minister of Defense of Latvia, for his valuable insights and analysis on tonight's program. You have been watching Inside Politics. Stay with A News, and I see you next time.